Taurus Sun and Rising. Welcome to your September 2024 Astro Update. It's Rena here. So this month is rocking and rolling. Every month before I do these readings, I look at the ephemeris and I compile a list of important transits. And it's like last month there were, some, but it wasn't anywhere near as many as it is this month. And some of these are particularly significant because we have an eclipse and a lunar eclipse, and it's the first in a series. And we also have the equinox, which is a powerful time of change as well. And I want to illustrate exactly why, and this is from September 1st, why you have to take this as a general reading, because I have Taurus rising, and the rising sign is what determines your natal chart. So you have to know your time of birth, all of that good stuff. Okay, well, on September 1st, Pluto goes back into Capricorn. Pluto has been retrograding in Aquarius since, I think it was like May 1st or 2nd, okay? And now it's gone into the sign before it, where it was there for 15 years. And for Taurus, this is the Taurus Sun and Rising. This is the ninth house, okay? This is a fellow Earth sign. So depending on your degree of Sun or Rising, this may even be trining you right now. You'd have to be a later degree for it to be doing so. And so that could add some positivity to it. But ninth house, okay, that's Sagittarius' house in astrology, and it has a lot of positive connotations as well. Now, here's the thing. You have to know what your cusp of the 10th house is. Like, for instance, for somebody with Taurus rising like me, I think it's like 4 degrees of Aquarius, maybe 3, 4. I think it's like 4 degrees of Aquarius. Now, that means that Pluto has never gone into my 10th house, because it's only gone up to like, I think 1 degree, 2 degrees before it has retrograded. So the point I'm making is that when I say that Pluto has been in your 10th house and now it's going back into the 9th house, that may not be true for many people. And because Pluto is so slow moving, it's an outer planet, it's a generational planet, that may not be true for another year or so. I haven't looked to see when it's going into my 10th house. So all this time it may be in your 9th house, but I'm going to still say it as if it has. I mean, it's only gone like a couple of degrees at most into Aquarius. So now that it's gone back into Capricorn, it's only going to the 29th degree. But in the 9th house, Pluto retrograde is really about going within as it pertains to your own, what I would call personal alchemy, as it pertains to your belief system in life, because that's what the 9th house represents. And so basically how I would translate that is that for those people, and this is something that you've been working on when Pluto has been in the 9th house. And it's funny because I just went to a spiritual workshop yesterday, and I didn't have the best experience, but it was for personal reasons, but it was also for the doctrine itself, the teaching itself. And I had to go within and say, okay, is it really about the outer construct, or does it have something to do with you? And it doesn't mean that it does have something to do with you. You may have changed so much that you no longer resonate with those things. And I believe that the ninth house is more of the different types of organized religion. But even Hinduism, yoga, Buddhism, all those things that we kind of mishmash together sometimes, um, even those kinds of things can be not as resonant, when you have Pluto going through this house, because you begin to see how you may differ from them, or you may not agree with some of those things. I was reading somebody online who actually went to India to study classical yoga and came away from it and said, you know what? I think some of those things were more relevant in that era, and they're no longer really relevant for us. Of course, ethics and the goal of transcendence is still going to always be the case. But some of the other, like, sometimes they have a lot of routines, practices, things that you're supposed to do. And it's like, some people don't want to do a lot of rituals or those kinds of things, but they still feel a strong connection to God, presence, holiness, whatever. So it's a very interesting thing. So these issues may come up in your life in a certain way, and you have to question it. Chances are you have been transforming your relationship to this type of belief system, and don't be tempted to think that you're an atheist if you have become very I wouldn't say cynical, but you question a lot of the things that you've been taught, the dogma. Doesn't mean that you're an atheist. It just means that you no longer believe those things, or you think that they're symbolic and or mythological. You don't think that they're necessarily true in the ultimate sense of the word, in a tangible way. So that's happening on the 1st. And on the same day, and this could also happen with higher education, where you may have gotten an advanced degree, and now you're like, you know what? I think this is a bunch of indoctrination. But this would have come over time. And it's really like an internal thing. It's like, what do I believe within myself? Do I need somebody to tell me these things in an outer way? Is this really higher learning? These are very important issues, because some people get very caught in them and they become a trap, and it ironically can make somebody a more narrow-minded person, even though we call it higher education or higher learning. That's what the 9th house can be about. On the same day, Uranus goes retrograde at 27 degrees of Taurus. And so for Taurus people, this may actually be a little bit stabilizing. Maybe you've had a lot of jolts to your typically placid way of going through life. Maybe you don't like it when your food dish is moved. But when Uranus went into Aquarius, whenever that was, I think it was 2017, 2018, whenever that was, you may have started to get more and more disenchanted with predictability, even though you're a fixed sign. And this is important for growth. Uranus is the awakener. Some of you may have had Kundalini, maybe even spontaneous Kundalini activations, which means that it's a spiritual awakening, but it can have rather disorienting effects sometimes. Some people think they're going crazy because it's happening too quickly. It's like burning out your channels, or circuits, whatever you want to call it. So the bottom line is that this is kind of a reprieve from that, but it doesn't mean that you're not going to still experience your life shifting sometimes suddenly, and you have to be, ready for that. This is true of anything in life. They say that about eclipses as well, but it's true about anything in life. If you're flexible, you can weather the storm. The The Tao says the supple branch, the one that's more flexible, it can bend in the storm. The rigid one snaps in the storm. That's true for life as a whole, not just certain transits. On the 2nd, we have a new moon at 11 degrees of Virgo. And this is about, this is another Earth. There's a lot of Earth emphasized here, not the typical that we would expect with Virgo, but I mean with Uranus and Taurus, with Capricorn, it's touching all of these Earth signs. And this is another sign that trines you, being an Earth sign. So this is in the opposite direction. This is ahead of you, and this is the 5th house, which is the house of love and creativity. So new moon here could breathe new life into a creative project, or you could be meeting somebody that has that effect on you. By the way, going back to Uranus retrograding in Taurus, again, with retrogrades, it's taking it in an internal way. There are mundane events that shift us, that force us to shift. But what about yourself? What are the things that you could do? Now, one of the things that I find as having Taurus rising, even with a lot of mutable energy, is that I tend to, walk in the same, I tend to have routines. And they say, go in a different direction, or go on a different street, change things up a little bit. And when I read those things, it almost kind of disturbs me, because I'm thinking to myself, oh gosh, because you get in that comfortable rut, that safety, that comfort zone. And, it's not that it's horribly evil, bad to have a comfort zone. But the problem is that you tend to experience the same things every time. And who knows what will happen if you do something completely different. Who knows if you order something different on the menu, if you'll like it even better. But you know what I found is that I'm like, why didn't I get the thing that I really like? That's that Taurus influence, I can tell you. So I just want to say that. But anyway, yeah, so new moon in Virgo, maybe something new that you are interested in doing, like a hobby. 5th house can be pleasurable things, pleasure itself. But it's really a fun time for Taurus, sun and rising people, because the 5th house is emphasized with all the Virgo transits. On the 4th, Mars goes into Cancer, another friendly angle called a sextile. And this is going to be in the 3rd house. So this is going to really rev up your desire to communicate. So I could totally see, and by the way, the Mercury retrograde, which is currently happening for most of August, if you're listening in August, it's going to go direct on August 28th. It started in Virgo. So it's going to take place until the 28th of August, and then it's going back. It's going to go out of its shadow on September 12th. So until September 12th, you might still have issues in the that are connected to the 5th house when it's in Virgo, until it comes out of its shadow on the 12th. If that's something that happens. As a matter of fact, you may have heard from an old flame when Mercury went retrograde back. When was that? I forgot. The 5th of August, something like that. So very interesting. And the new moon is in Virgo, so there's a lot going on with that 5th house with people. But yeah, so I could totally see people when Mars is in that 3rd house, where they are uh, you know, starting websites and YouTube channels, and social media is like on fire for some reason, that you just have a sense of urgency about it. And sometimes it can make a person argumentative because the third house is communication itself. So watch that. Third house can be siblings. You could be spending more time in activities with them, doing activities with them, or maybe you are sparring with them in some way because, Mars is going to go into the fourth house, and it deals with the mom. Some people say the father. I call it the family of origin, the parents. Yeah, so that's on the fourth. And also, if you have any kind of issues with neighbors, that could be like Mars. Mars could be conflict with neighbors. I say conflict, but it doesn't have to be. Also, it's your local area. So Mars in the third house could be more civic activities that you're involved with. On the ninth, Mercury goes into Virgo. So there's another transit in that fifth house. And 3 days later, Mercury comes out of its shadow. So then, anything that is up in the air, you should see that you're moving on finally from it. Because sometimes we begin to resolve something, but it still isn't 100%. But this could be, this is resolved. On the 17th, we have a lunar eclipse at 25 degrees of Pisces. This is another friendly angle. This is a month where there's a lot of friendly angles to Taurus placements, okay? This is a sextile coming from the 11th house. The 11th house is the house of gains, meaning from, profits from business, from your career. And this is also your hopes and wishes, and it's also the house of friendships and groups. When I think of a lunar eclipse, I think of like a wave. And a wave, I mean, if you think of a tsunami, it could wipe something out, right? And it could just be like, okay, that's like totally done with. So an example would be, and I'm not saying this is true for everybody, but if let's say you decide that you are going to quit drinking or quit smoking weed, and you had like this group of people that you would just party with all the time, and then you just kind of walk away from them in like one fell swoop. You do away with those people because you don't want to be surrounded by that kind of activity. That's what I mean by that. That's just one example. And that probably doesn't happen that dramatically. But the other thing, besides kind of like a wiping out, I also think of a harvest time, because a lunar eclipse is a powerful full moon, and full moons can bring something to fruition. So it's actually bringing what the person has worked so hard for. So yeah, in the 11th house, this could be like a major boost to your income. 11th house is a money house. So it could actually be really amazing. So just keep that in mind. Or some kind of a long-range goal, a hope or a wish that you've wanted comes to fruition. So it could be actually a very happy time for some Taurus individuals because of this lunar eclipse. The only thing that I would caution you about is thinking that it will happen on the 17th of September. You might experience this in August. You might experience this in, October. It might not be actually in September. Now, another thing too is that the 11th house, I always thought that the 11th house was the house of the internet. And then, I started hearing other astrologers say the third house. And it really, that's because, primarily because that was traditionally the house of journalism, the media. And now that social media has kind of usurped, and the online space has become what the media is, and kind of like eclipsed the print media and the traditional forms of media. Now we are looking at the third house for all of the online stuff. But then when I went back to look for the 11th house and the internet, I couldn't find the things that I thought I had read. So I'm like, wait, did I imagine this? But the 11th house, and Uranus is the ruler of the 11th house. Technology is part of that. And the 11th house is the collective. So it makes sense that the internet is the way that we get in touch with the masses. So I do believe that some people can go viral during this time if you've been working on starting a channel. And like I said, Mars in the third house, you could be starting a channel and all of a sudden you get some video that goes viral, and that may also be profitable for you as well. On the 22nd, the sun goes into Libra, and that points to your 6th house of work and health. And by the way, even though it's in a sign Libra, which is an air sign, this house is an earth house. So you still have that earth influence. This is Virgo's domain in astrology. And Venus on the same day, Venus goes into Scorpio, your opposite sign, and in the 7th house. And by the way, Venus is your ruler, and Venus rules the 2nd house of earned income. So Venus is connected to money. This can be in the 7th house from some kind of a legal decision, but it can also be from clients. So if you have gotten some more clients for whatever reason, that could be reflected in Venus in that 7th house. The sun in the 6th house means that health matters are really, you're concentrating on those. Maybe you're creating goals around them. And that's what's going on with that. On the 26th, Mercury goes into that 6th house. Mercury can be about reading, you're researching, about health, and maybe you're doing, documenting. If you're going on some kind of health regimen, you're like taking notes or keeping track of things. You could be, reading books on health. It can be about diet itself, or with work, because you're going to have a solar eclipse here the week after this, in the beginning of October. So you might be talking to employers. Maybe you're in between jobs and you're looking for work, some kind of negotiation at work. Yeah, so very interesting. This is, like I said, a jam-packed month, Taurus, and I hope that you're excited for it. And if you would like a private reading, I do have a special in the form of what I call like package deals, which the deep dive reading I have is an hour of natal chart analysis and an hour of transits for the next 12 months. But these are specific for your chart, not for the general kind of a thing. And if you like the tarot, because I also do tarot, I have those 2 readings plus a full-length tarot reading called The Whole Enchilada for a special price as well. And I have like love readings and career, money types of readings, life path. You can find out more information at the link below. Thanks for listening. Bye.